Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Passions Podcast, the podcast where we talk about the soap opera passions. I am your regular host, Latara, back today with Dr. Eric Vera.
Hello, hello. Ooh, hey. It's all for the applause, the applause. Thank you so much. I'm so excited about your new toy. You know what I did this week? I watched The Challengers, a story about a beautiful black woman who has basically like this like threesome type thing with and who also happens to be a tennis player. And then guess what happens on this week on Passions? This beautiful black woman who is a tennis player gets a little scandalous with two
Oh
boys
my
on the
God.
dance floor.
No,
So some similar
but you
circumstances.
know what? She was incapacitated because fucking Ivy. Y'all, I'm sick of Ivy this week. Let me be clear. I started out the conversation with Eric before we got on here where I was like, yeah, no, fuck her.
Ivy's gonna get ripped a new one, and I'm excited for it.
I've absolutely had it. So welcome back, Eric. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Passions people, for being here. We watched episodes 661 through 665 this week. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah. All right. And before we get too far into the episode, I want to give a shout out to all of my patrons over on Patreon. Thank you to Munashe, Marcus, Breland, Lisa, Sid, Sarana, Randall, Hannah, Camelia, Samantha, Jeanette, Eric, Fantasia, Sean S., Larissa, Maria, George Lopez Fitzgerald, Lisa, Jessica Jean, Laura, Karen, Uche, Justin, Paige, Casey, Garage, and our newest batch of patrons, Tom Bergeron, everybody, Shawnette, Pablo, and Steven. Thank you all so much for becoming patrons
Look at
and
that.
continuing to support the show. Yeah, we got a nice little batch this month, so
That's incredible.
I'm very excited. Thank you all so much. I'm hoping to see and meet everybody on the next watch party or game night, which is coming up. Oh, well, it's in 2 days. So by the time this comes out, it will
We'll
have been,
reflect
it'll
fondly
be
on
over.
it.
Yo, we'll think back on it. All right. But if it goes well, we'll do another one in the future. So we're going to get into the episode now, y'all. There was no Shawise this week, which I was grateful for.
It's a nice break.
It was
We
a
got, you know what? I mean, it's fitting, right? We got a good dose of Mackenzie Westmore, and so now we'll take a little break, and then I'm sure we'll get back to the showy stuff in a little bit.
yeah, it was a much deserved break
Yeah.
from those people on that island over there. All right, so this week we're going to start with our troubled marriages and what's going on with Ivy and Sam and David and TC and Eve. We actually get a little more TC and Eve this week. We also get
Mhm.
more Whitney and Chad and a little bit of Simone this week too. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to see us kind of moving in
Changing
that
it up a little
direction.
bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about what's going on with Ivy and David. They're arguing. um, David is struggling. He's continuing to struggle with doing this scheme, right, with Ivy.
Yeah.
I want to just get this out of the way. They have this same conversation like multiple times, right? Where
Yes.
he's like, "You're evil, Ivy," and she's like, "Get over it. You'll do what I say because I can ruin your life."
Yeah.
So that's the
She's like,
conversation.
I just want what I want, and what I want is Sam.
Yeah, yeah.
Green eggs and ham. Yeah.
So, Grace, oh my God, Grace and Sam come to the bedroom because Ivy and David are in Ivy's bedroom. Grace and Sam come to Ivy's bedroom and David hides and they bring her tea and then Sam like leaves and Grace asks Ivy for forgiveness.
Yeah. It, it's so it was so hard to sit through, and it was definitely hard. I mean, like literally, Ivy has to sit through all of this, but she had the same facial expressions I did. It was just like, this is weird and uncomfortable. She has every reason to feel guilty, but us as audience people were like, Grace, come on. Just
Grace, come
yeah.
on. She apologizes to Ivy because she says when she lost her baby and all of the stuff came out about her Ivy's past with Sam, she was so angry that she thought horrible things about Ivy and said horrible things about Ivy and also cursed her in the hospital, right? And I think that's the bigger part of what she's apologizing for.
Yeah.
Because she later on says, I think that the reason you're in the mess you're in now in such horrible pain is because of me and my curse,
Yeah.
right? Which is such a crazy thing to say. It's true. It's actually
Yeah.
true. But it's like it is such a self-aggrandizing thing to say. It's like you are in the horrible situation in your life because of my words, the
Yeah.
things that I said and spoken
Well, and
to the
again,
universe.
the other side of it is Ivy doesn't believe in all these supernatural things. I mean, she kind of does have this like, well, Grace does have weird feelings and stuff, but it's still one of those things that that particular group of people on in Harmony don't believe in this stuff, and so sure she is trying to like have to figure out if what Grace is talking about. And then also, she is at fault. She is trying to break them up, and here's this woman saying, "Thank you for not trying to do that anymore," and she's like,
Yeah, Grace is like, yeah, and I know you're in so much pain that there's no way you could be scheming anymore. I know you've given up on Sam, and and that's gotta hurt too. Also, basically, I'm sorry I got your man, bitch.
"Yeah,
I'm sorry your man is with me, but no, she
yeah,
gives her like a really heartfelt apology. So yeah, Ivy accepts this apology, even though she kind of doesn't believe in this. And it's funny, yeah, you said, Ivy doesn't really believe in the supernatural stuff, except she believes in Charity's premonitions,
yeah,
right? Like she believed in them enough to believe the Eve and Julian stuff and the bird statue stuff. And so, yeah, it's interesting what they pick and choose to believe in this show.
yeah."
So anyway, she accepts the apology. And Grace leaves, and then David comes out and is like, you really are evil, aren't you, Ivy? How could you hear that heartfelt apology and feel nothing and still want to break up Sam and Grace? And she says to him, because I know that that Grace isn't as good as she pretends she is. I know that that's all an act. And again, it's just she's projecting, because anytime Ivy's being nice to anybody, it is an act, right?
Yeah.
She's just she's so full of shit. Y'all, again, I'm having some feelings about Ivy this
Oh
week.
yeah.
So
You haven't even gotten to the meat of it. Yeah.
I'm having some real feelings about her this week. Okay. So she he says that he doesn't want to do this, blah 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 blah, same old, and she again says, I will ruin you. She says, stop judging me, David. That I loved that. because
Yeah.
truthfully, in Ivy's, not her defense, but she's kind of right about this, he is almost as bad as she is. He's still doing it, and he's at the point now where he's saying that he loves Grace, but he's willing to be so manipulative,
Yeah.
of her. So she says to him, stop judging me, David, and just do the job that I hired you to do. He says no. She says, yes, you will, or I will ruin you. And then he's sorry, there's a gnat. And then he says, Julian Crane isn't the only Crane who deserved to die. Oh,
Yeah.
I loved that line. That might be the episode title this week. I'm not sure. I got it. Sorry.
This episode is just full of distractions.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, Julian Crane isn't the only Crane who deserved to die, he says kind of under his breath.
Yeah.
And then he leaves the room. Well, she screams at him because she hears him say it.
Yeah.
And she's like, get out. And she throws like a glass or something. Like she's very angry. And he leaves. Rebecca is giddy. Let's talk about Rebecca. Rebecca doesn't have anyone to talk to this week, but she's hanging out.
She is full on what oh god, look at my brain, it's just not functioning today.
I know.
She is full on Hotchkiss, because that is their traits. Gwen and Rebecca have to talk to themselves all the time.
Yeah. And so she has no one to talk to this week. I think she does talk to Ivy for maybe 30 seconds, maybe 10
Yeah.
seconds. But anyway, she is lurking around because y'all remember she has figured out Ivy's scheme entirely from top to bottom. She knows what's going on. She doesn't have any proof, but she's trying to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
And so she's just like lurking at different spots at different times, and she's just giddy and at the anticipating exposing Ivy's
Yeah.
scheme. And at one point, she's like, "Ha ha ha, Ivy, you are going down. You are so going down." I just loved it. And if I once I get some of that Passions music into my new little sound bank. I'm
Yes.
every time I say some of these lines, I'm gonna start
Oh,
giving
yes,
myself a
it's
little musical
perfect.
cue because it'll be so fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, she says you are so going down. So just know that Rebecca's just like bouncing about everybody. Her bosoms are bouncing from here, hither and yon
Yeah,
around
yeah.
the mansion. Okay, so meanwhile, TC and Eve are downstairs and they have a conversation about Ivy. And TC is saying that he thinks that Ivy's up to her old tricks. And he says, you know, she learned from the best from the Cranes. And then he goes on a little tirade about Julian and how much he hates
Yeah,
Julian and the Cranes. You know, we know that old yarn, that old chestnut.
exactly.
And then Eve at one point is like, hey, maybe fucking chill on the I hate Julian shit because there's a murder investigation and you are suspect number one.
Yeah,
Right? So she's like, maybe, you know, tamper it down for a little
yeah,
bit right now. And so he kind of listens to her. But Rebecca overhears this conversation and she realizes, wait a minute, I can use TC because she's trying to figure out how can she expose Ivy's scheme, right? She's like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
can use TC to do it. So Rebecca goes in after like Eve leaves.
Yeah,
So she talks to TC. She kind of butters him up. She talks about what a saint Eve is for caring for Ivy, even though Ivy's like the most poisonous person in town. And
yeah,
they
yeah.
just talk. And then TC turns to her and he's like, "Finally, somebody around here who gets it. Yeah, she's poison, right? Like she's evil. There has to be something going on,
Yeah, yeah.
right?"
At some
And
point while TC was talking, Rebecca just said, "TC hates Ivy almost as much as I do," which is you pointed out the other day during the watch party. It was like, no, I don't think anyone hates Ivy as much as you do. Just Julian. I mean, like that's
yeah,
your only rival.
yeah, that's true. But I mean, they make it is crazy how much TC hates Ivy. Like it's wild considering I get the Julian stuff because he has like history. There's history there, but with Ivy, like I
It's
get it.
I get hate
She's
hate by
the
osmosis, maybe hate by osmosis, like by proxy,
I
because
yeah
he
by
hates
proxy
them so
just by the
much.
name I guess
Yeah.
because she's there, but
But the writers made it sound like he's always hated Ivy. Like he never talked about Ivy before in a day, like very rarely.
yeah,
Just Sam and Grace stuff. But
I think before, I will say, here's what I'll say. I think before TC was all about like Julian is evil, and Alistair, of
yeah,
course. But Julian is evil. And I don't know Ivy that well, but she's married to him, so she probably isn't that great either. Right? That's what it used to be. And now, I guess because he has learned that Ivy was trying to break up Grace and Sam's marriage, so he's like, she's just as evil as Julian is. So I'm
yeah,
glad we walked ourselves through that.
yeah,
Sometimes I gotta talk myself through a problem. So anyway, he hates Ivy now. So he and Rebecca are sitting on the couch, just chatting it up, talking shit about Ivy, and he's loving it, just loving it,
yeah,
eating it up. And then she she basically poses what her suspicions are to him, and the way she kind of frames it, it makes TC seem like you know what, I'm gonna go back. The way she kind of frames it, it's almost like she's doing that thing where I'm gonna make TC think this was his idea, right?
yeah. Oh yeah. And
And
Rebecca's
he
so good
does
at this
run
stuff.
with it like
Yeah,
it's his, like he
yeah,
thought up this whole thing. So yeah, she explains, you know, oh yeah, do you really believe that David is Grace's husband? And he's like, well, they got all the paperwork. There was a marriage license, there, you know, a priest. And um Rebecca's like, yeah, you know what, you're right. But what if maybe someone with lots of money and influence could, you know, make that make could create false documents, right?
yeah. And she does mention to TC, "Oh, well, you know what's odd is I accidentally overheard a conversation between Ivy and David." And so
Mm-hmm.
that was also another thing that helps her. And again, doesn't give TC everything, but just enough to, like you said, get him to think that it's his idea.
Yeah.
Poking holes in the story.
Yeah. So she leads him to the conclusion that David has been hired by Ivy and that John is not Grace's son, and uh that Ivy is just using them to break up Sam and Grace's marriage. And TC here's this theory, and he runs with it basically. He's
Yeah,
like, "You know what? You're making a lot of sense." And she was making a lot of sense because she's correct, right?
yeah.
And so he says, "I don't know, how could we prove it?" And she says, "Oh, a DNA test would
Hmm.
prove. And your wife just happens to be a doctor. Why don't we just have the good Dr. Eve do a DNA test on John and Grace, and then we'll know for sure if he's Grace's son." And so then she leaves, having
Well,
created
before
this.
yeah, before she leaves, she does kind of put her hand on TC's knee, and I don't think it was TC's tennis elbow she was reaching for. So
And
they
he
just wanted to
didn't
give us a little like scandalous Rebecca.
and he didn't pull away either. He actually kind of put his hand on hers, which was weird. TC,
Yeah,
what's that about,
I
TC?
I don't. I think in another world where Passions wasn't so campy and Daytime wasn't. I mean, Daytime was kind of scandalous back then, but I think they would have explored this like thing
You think
further.
so? No, I don't
I
think
think in a different world. I don't think in this world that we're in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think. I feel like in Passions, it just doesn't make sense.
Oh yeah,
She's from like a rich. Well, she's not from rich people, but she's married to a rich man. She's part of that society set.
yeah.
And TC kind of prides himself on
Oh
being
yeah.
such a stand-up guy.
I think
I don't.
Rebecca could pursue it more. Is what I'm saying. Is that if
Oh,
Rebecca got
yeah,
well, now she doesn't
maybe.
have Julian.
Yeah, yeah, but she wouldn't want
She got to
TC.
find somebody.
Maybe if TC was a tennis star and had money, but
Yeah,
he
but not a
doesn't.
tennis coach. Yeah, with a
Yeah,
murder
no.
shed.
So anyway, she leaves, and then Eve and Sam come into the living room, and TC tells them what is now his theory. He doesn't tell them, I was talking to Rebecca, and she said something really interesting, which I found very interesting. This is me talking now. I found very interesting, Latara, that he literally just took all of her ideas and information and then regurgitated everything she said as if it was his
Yeah,
own original idea and his own
yeah.
original thought. And I don't know, I just feel like that's such a universal experience for a lot of people, but especially a lot of women,
Hmm.
where you say something and somebody else decides it's that you didn't say it right, and now I'm going to say it, and it's now my idea. I don't know. I don't know. It just felt a little weird to me. But I will say, I guess that if he had said, "Oh, this came from Rebecca," then that would make it even more suspicious.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I was gonna be like, I think Eve would have already been like, that means Rebecca's up to something. So
Yeah.
why are we dealing with this? And not to mention, Eve is being very nice to Ivy at this point. Still, she's just very much like she's in so much pain. You don't understand what that kind of pain would make you do. Blah blah blah.
Yeah. So, yes, he tells them, "I believe that this is what happened," right? And, David is a fraud. John isn't Grace's son. Sam is like, and Sam and Eve both are like, "Well, Ivy's in too much pain. She could never do anything like that. She's in too much pain." And Sam, I mean, and TC's like, "Well, she wasn't when David showed up. She
Yeah,
was perfectly fine when David showed up the first time." And then they also bring up like the paperwork, right? Sam's like, I did my due diligence, yo.
yeah,
I did my diligence. I am a police officer, an officer of the law. I of course investigated this, but of course you are bad at your job, Sam, so you didn't figure it out. So
yeah, yeah.
um so TC says, "Well, money and influence can buy pretty much anything. Am I right? Am I right?" So he plants those same seeds of doubt, and Sam's hearing it, Eve's hearing it. I feel like they both give a lot of pushback on this, But the person who gives the most pushback is Grace when she comes in, because she comes into this conversation having overheard them talk about a DNA test, right? And she's like, "What is this about a DNA test? What are you trying to say? John's not my son?" She was so upset. And it's like, girl, you just met this boy. You just met him.
I was really frustrated by this. It was so annoying. I didn't like it just came out of nowhere. Like she really did. They didn't even give us an idea that she heard this conversation, so that was kind of weird. But she stormed in and well, what is all this about John not being my son? And it was very big and grand. And then what I wrote down the way she said it because she was like, "Why do we need proof?" And then I couldn't stop laughing. I mean, I laughed so hard. I was like, "This is weird." It's like you always needed proof. I don't know why you would just. I mean, it's not like anybody has said, "Wow, you look just like Grace. Wow, you have Standish features." Why? I mean, nothing, nothing. Do you get premonitions? Can you ask him at least one question about that? I mean, like, there has not been anything other than he's like, I was valedictorian. I'm
His
smart."
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, my mom didn't show up for me on Mother's Day, and here's my driver's license.
and
Boom.
and yeah,
He's
yeah,
he's Grace's son. No,
yes,
yeah. She's like, "Why do we need proof?" And she says, the one that got me too was she says, "Why are you saying John is not my son? How could he not be my son?" Girl, there's a million different ways. Number one, you don't remember giving birth to him.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
So I don't know. It's possible, girl.
yeah.
So TC and Sam explain the suspicions again. And she is still like outraged by all of this, and she's angry, saying, "You did your due diligence already. We already did this investigation and we found nothing." And she says this is tells TC that his anger at the Cranes is just making him come up with something so outlandish, and it's not that outlandish. It's not that outlandish.
No, it should have been done from the very beginning. And
Yeah.
they talk about it eventually, but like I don't know how you just in this day and age when it's not that. I mean, get a 23andMe or get a ancestry DNA thing. I mean, they didn't have that back then,
No,
but like
but you know what they could
even
have
back
did?
then,
Maury. They could have gone on Maury.
they went on the
They
Larry
did.
Winger
That's
show
what I was
or
about to say.
yeah,
They did Jerry Springer, Larry Wingard. They should have done Maury. Shit.
that would have been
You
fun.
are not the mother,
Yeah.
right? Anyway, that
Man,
would have been fun.
yeah.
That was hilarious.
Or
But anyway,
you know what show I liked? Forgive or Forget. Remember that show with Mother
no,
Love? You don't remember
no.
the show? Okay, so it was a show called Forgive or Forget, and it starred Mother Love. And basically, you would take your problem to her, and you would apologize to the person that you wronged or felt that you had wronged, and then there would be a door, and at the door, if you forgave the person, that person would be standing there behind the door. If you didn't, the door would be blank and no, and they wouldn't come through the door. And I used to watch it. It was daytime TV.
I never heard of
Yeah.
that. Oh, I think I'm
Get
gonna
watch an
listen to
episode and you'll love it. And Mother Love was amazing.
I've never heard of that. That's hilarious. Okay.
I can still hear the theme song in my head. But anyway, yeah, go on a show and they should have done this DNA thing a long time ago. It was
Yeah,
really
they should have
frustrating
done
that
it
Grace
immediately.
is Grace is so upset by it.
Yeah, well, it's the level of not just being upset, but that she's like mystified as to why they would
Yeah.
why they would have any doubts about it. That's just so weird to me. Girl, you have amnesia. You don't remember either of these people, and they both just came into our lives to yeah, we should do some DNA tests. We
Yeah.
should. But anyway, uh David, meanwhile, goes back upstairs to Ivy's room and tells her, because he comes out and overhears them kind of talking about this, and then he goes back to Ivy's room and tells her, TC has you figured out, girl. And I don't know why he went back and told Ivy. Just let Ivy get in trouble. You know?
Yeah,
That's what I would do.
you are absolutely right. Well, I guess because he knows, I don't know, like I guess he knows that he's done for too. Maybe he's like, let me go report back. But I don't think that you're absolutely right. Why tell Ivy if you want it to come out, let them do the thing, and then Ivy can't be on the defensive, on the
Yeah, because
defense.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. Ivy is less likely to expose his secret if she is blindsided by like this
Yeah.
DNA test thing, right? And like, and it seems like maybe he didn't really have anything to do with it, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I feel like she would be less likely to expose his secret because it wouldn't necessarily be his fault. He did all he could do to like help her break up Sam and Grace's marriage.
Yeah.
But she's definitely gonna expose your secret if you tell her about the DNA test and then don't help with the fixing of the DNA test. So
Yeah.
anyway, he tells her you're done for, Ivy. They know all about you. They've TC's onto you specifically. And they're gonna do a DNA test, and he says he's ready for things to end. He's ready for all of the truth to come out. And then he heads back downstairs and Ivy panics. She's in absolute manic mode.
Well,
Okay.
and she tells him, she's like, how could a lummox like TC come up with that? Which I was like, I think TC's a lot of things, but lummox is probably not the word I would use to describe him. But and then she's like, oh, it's Rebecca, that copper-haired snake. Damn that bitch, Rebecca.
It's so interesting that she figured out that it was Rebecca like immediately. Although I do like that because I mean,
I do too, but
we
it's
don't need
like
to waste any time on it.
Yeah, I just after we got that epic monologue from Rebecca piecing everything together, I wish there would have been not an I don't need the same size monologue, but just a little bit more thought process. She jumped there real fast. It was very fast to get to
Well,
Rebecca.
she's smarter than Rebecca.
Oh, there you go.
Right? So she doesn't have to go through the whole
Yeah, yeah. I guess she
all the
did put two
pieces.
and two together. She just said, "There's no way TC could have done this by himself."
And the only person
Um,
who would have figured this out is Rebecca because
yeah,
she's just as foul as I am,
yeah, for
right?
real.
These two are birds of a feather.
Game recognizes game.
Exactly. So, David goes back downstairs and he enters the group chat. Meanwhile, Ivy's upstairs flipping out, right? So
Yeah,
let's talk about what's going on in the group chat downstairs. TC tells everyone, there is one person who knows the truth, and that's when David walks into the room. And TC asks him if he's flat out, point blank, are you working for Ivy? But before David can even answer the question, because I had a feeling that David might have said something a little bit, maybe not, maybe incriminating, maybe because he kind of wants out of this at this point, right?
well, at some point, eventually, it just feels like David just gives up.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't know if he was gonna come clean in this moment, but it did seem like he could have, right?
yeah,
But Grace interrupts, of course,
yeah,
and she's like, "Why do we have to?" Well, let me write down let me read exactly what she said because I think I wrote it down. Grace interrupts and she says, "David shouldn't be treated like this when he's been nothing but kind and decent to me." And then out of nowhere, she just agrees to the DNA test. Like she has her demeanor flips. It started out where she was like so upset, so angry, and then it became like, you know what? I guess we can do she just becomes deflated so easily. I
yeah.
mean, I'm fine with it because we do need to do the DNA test.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, she defends David and then she says, you know what, we can do the DNA test. And she says that she knows that Sam is the one who needs the proof, right?
Yeah,
And that she wants to do it so to make sure that their marriage remains strong. Whatever. I don't care. As long as you agree.
yeah.
As long as you agree.
Well, again, she says something like, "Oh, well, you're a police officer, aren't you? And you're never gonna let this down, huh? So we're gonna have to have a DNA test." Okay, but it's like, y- Grace, you're crazy. I don't know.
But see, this is why nobody likes her because no, this is why nobody likes her because she can't stick to her own fucking guns on anything.
Yeah,
Like she's so waffly, so wishy-washy,
yeah,
right? Like if you are gonna be angry about the DNA test and be like and say this is my son, then roll with that. Go
yeah,
with it,
yeah,
But whatever. Fine. She's gonna do the DNA test. So
yeah,
David says he has no objections to them doing a DNA test, which again makes everybody in the room with the exception of TC, because TC's like,
Yes.
what game are you playing, David? But everybody else in the room is like, yeah, see, he doesn't even have a problem with it. If he was working with Ivy, he would not want you to do the DNA test, right? But TC's on to him.
Yep.
So meanwhile, Ivy like comes out of her room and she's like watching on from the balcony. TC's like still on a tirade about the cranes, and even though he's gotten what he wants, what's that say? Oh yeah, I wrote TC continues to go on a tirade about the cranes, even though he's gotten what he wants. It's like, you wanted them to do the DNA test. They're gonna do the DNA test. Why are you still yelling?
Yeah,
Why?
and Julian's
Why
Julian's
did
probably dead, so just
be
yeah.
happy? Don't worry. Be happy,
And
TC.
listen, he will be happy for a very short-lived amount of time this week.
Mm,
And that's it.
yeah. So Grace does say at one point that she did kind of just blindly accept that John was her son, which I appreciate her saying
Yeah.
that she blindly accepted it, because she did.
Yeah.
So Ivy confronts Rebecca about being behind the whole DNA plot. She's like, I know it was you, Rebecca. You told them about my um whatever. And she says, don't underestimate me, Rebecca. I haven't even begun to fight. Because Rebecca says to her, basically, you're going down. Nah, whatever. It's over for you, Ivy.
Yeah, she
And they
does
do
that a
their little
lot.
cute little banter. And that's the
Yeah.
one time Rebecca gets to talk to anybody this week.
Yeah.
After TC, I guess. Okay, so Ivy then calls Eve up to her bedroom. And again, at this point, Eve is still of the mind that Ivy's in too much pain to be a menace.
Yeah, she she she
Right?
she tells the guy, she's like, she probably needs something to help her get through the night. So let me just go up there real quick and then we'll head out.
She actually defends Ivy to TC before she goes upstairs. Oh, but before, actually, should we do what's going on downstairs before we do Ivy? Let's finish downstairs and then let's go to Ivy
Okay.
upstairs. Ivy. So she goes up to talk to that lady right upstairs.
Yeah.
So at this point, Sam then takes Grace outside for like some air, and they have a very delusional conversation about all the bad things being behind them, and
Yeah.
nothing ever could get in between them, nothing could ever break them up. Even if Ivy is scheming, it won't work, yada yada yada. And then Grace gets a premonition and she's like, she, she becomes
Yeah. I
unhinged.
I wrote premonition constipation. Like
Yeah.
she just like was making I've never seen her react this way because we usually just go straight into seeing the premonition, but she just basically got a feeling like chills. Somebody walked across her grave basically.
Yeah, and she says I don't know what it is. I just got a feeling that I can't get rid of. And she says that it's the feeling, a premonition about something horrible out there that's going to break them up, right? That's gonna that the all the bad things are not behind them, are not in fact behind them. And Sam manages to like distract her by talking shit about Kay.
Oh, well, yeah. Okay, so we're gonna get to the kids eventually, but I wrote this down because it was what a weird conversation. But I mean, it made them feel a little normal, I guess. But they're like, I don't know how they got into talking about the kids, but all I wrote down was the kids say Reese is Kay's boyfriend, but I don't believe it. And then Grace's like, yeah, I don't. They say that, but I don't believe that. Like, Kay doesn't look into him at all. And like, how is it that they see it, but none of the kids do? None of the kids do, except make Simone. But Simone is privy to the fact that she's always after Miguel. And then Kay, they say Kay will go after. Eventually, someday, Kay will fall in love, and when she does, she's gonna go after that guy full force, and whoever that guy is doesn't stand a chance.
Yeah. So
Weird little conversation that they had.
it was such a weird conversation. It was such.
Yeah.
I mean, I do remember how they got there, because it felt like a leap. But what happens is Grace is like having this premonition, and then she says, "I don't know how Charity handles this. I mean, I'm a grown woman, but she's
Mm,
just a child." And then Sam is like, "Well, she has Miguel." It's like, Miguel's a child too.
got it. Yeah.
What? Shouldn't you
Also,
be like, she
Miguel.
has us?
Also, Miguel tells her not to believe any of her premonitions.
Right.
Her and Antonio have a lot in common. Him and, and Antonio have a lot in common.
Yeah.
Gaslighting their women.
Yeah, he doesn't even believe in it, and he's really flippant about it all.
Yeah.
He's very unhelpful usually. Anyway, and like I said, he's a child. She's a child.
Yeah.
He's a child. What the child leading the child? That's crazy.
He's a child. She's a
He's a
child.
child.
We're
We're
a
a
child.
child. Cause we're all childs. Yeah. Hey, I'm a dude. She's a dude. He's a dude. Cause we're all dudes. Yeah. Okay.
Anytime we can bring up Good Burger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. So yeah, they talk shit about Kay. Meanwhile, TC takes the opportunity.
They're always talking shit about Kay.
They're
She
always
can't
talking
go to
shit about
school.
Kay.
She Reese ain't her boyfriend.
Yeah, they whatever. TC takes this opportunity to tell David that his marriage is strong and just like Grace's and Sam's, and there's no way, whatever. He
Yeah.
just is telling David, I don't trust you. I don't believe you. I think that you are the worst kind of man. And he's like, what kind of man would manipulate a woman like this and try to break up a marriage? What kind of man are you? And then David is like, listen, TC, all I can tell you is I'll do anything to make sure Grace doesn't get hurt. I want to make sure that she's the
Yeah.
kindest, most lovely person I've ever met. And then TC realized, he's like, wait a minute, you love Grace, don't you?
Yeah.
Which here's the thing. Well, I guess TC is now of the mind that David was never Grace's husband.
Yeah.
But I was thinking in the terms of, well, if he used to be her husband, he never stopped loving her, you know.
Yeah.
But those aren't the terms he's thinking in, so I'll give TC a break.
Yeah.
He's like, David, you love Grace, don't you? And David is like, yes, I do. I do love Grace.
But again, and it's all showing his cards because he should have been like, of course I never stopped loving her. But he's just like, yes, I can confirm that I love Grace. But it's just like, why aren't you? He's not backing up any more lies. He's just not talking about them. And he's just kind of not really responding. And his silence is speaking volumes right now.
Yeah, yeah. He says he's tired of all the questions. He's tired of all the uh I wrote it down. Whatever. He's tired of the nonsense.
I'm tired of this conversation, really. It
Me
lasted
too, I'm
really,
tired
it was
of
a
the
long
conversation.
time. Yeah. It was a long time this week. And TC had I'm happy they gave the actor a lot to do, but he just was it was so much TC this week that I was like, I'm done.
It was so much TC this week.
Yeah.
And he goes on so many tirades.
Yeah.
I think I just skipped over one, but he eventually David looks at TC and says, "You know what? I don't trust you either." And he walks away, right? He's like,
Yeah.
I'm done with this conversation. So let's talk about what's going on up in Ivy's room.
Yeah, we have the reverse of whatever happened to Baby Jane. We have the blonde white lady in the chair who's mean, and then we have our brunette who is the compassionate one,
Yeah.
having to deal with it. So,
I don't know how compassionate Eve is.
well, not very much after what happens up there.
I don't know how compassionate Eve is. Okay, so up in Ivy's room, uh Eve enters. Ivy's like, shut the door. And Eve closes it. She's none the wiser. She doesn't understand what's going on. Because remember, again, Ivy has just learned that they're going to do a DNA test on John, right? So Eve tries to give Ivy some sleeping pills. She's like, are you having trouble sleeping? Here's some drugs. Here's some more drugs.
After she said, I'm having to put you on a regimen, like you are not to overdose yourself.
Yeah, don't keep giving yourself
Over-medicate.
over medicate. She tries to give her some pills, like a bottle of pills. Ivy hits them out of her hand. She knocks them out of her hand. And she says, I know about the DNA test. And Eve immediately realizes,
Yeah.
so it's true. David is working for you. And
David is a fraud, and you are still trying to break up Sam and Grace.
And Ivy then says to Eve, "Oh, don't be stupid, Eve. Of course David works for me." That might be the episode title too. I don't know. And
That's really, it was
that
really good because
so
it was
good.
like, how, okay, man, Ivy is is spiraling. She really is spiraling. And so she needed to go on the full attack because it's like not even any nuance, not even any like nothing. It's like if I don't put my foot down, I need to intimidate Eve immediately to get what I want.
It also is like the phrasing that she uses on this
Don't
and
be
don't be
stupid.
stupid, Eve. Of course, David works for me. It almost like the thing about it is, as I've been saying, Ivy and Eve are basically best friends. They seem like best
Oh
friends
yeah.
to me, right? Like,
They are the frenemies that I mean I love them.
and the way she said that to her is like you're talking to a good friend who should have known better, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, of course, girl. Don't have we met?
I mean, how lucky are we that we just recently got a Ivy versus Rebecca, and now we're getting an Ivy versus Eve? Like
This was a good
those
one
are that's
too.
what I live for. Yeah,
This Ivy versus Eve this week was a great one. So she says, "Don't be stupid, Eve. Of course David works for me. You of all people should know how much I want Sam back. And do I need to remind you about all the times you helped me in the past?" And she says you did it then and you're gonna do it now. And Eve says, "Well, you blackmailed me. I didn't just help you."
yeah. And I don't know where you have this in your notes, but I this was my favorite because she basically says like, and I feel horrible about this. Like
Mhm.
I'm so tired of feeling horrible about the situations that I had to put my friends in for you because of you blackmailing me. And she's like, I'm so tired of feeling horrible about the things I've done in the past to help you. And Ivy goes, well, get over it. Now do something new. You're going to do something new to feel horrible about.
She's slimy this week.
Oh, yeah.
Like toxic tar. She is disgusting this week.
She's full on Crane. Any Winthrop, any like former Ivy, yeah, it's buried deep down inside the Grinch because there's a lot here that is just full on Crane Ivy Crane.
Horrible. Honestly, the way she acted this week makes me want her to never get Sam at
Yeah.
all. Okay, so because this
But
is
am I still rooting for her? Yes. But I'm mad at her.
Mm, I don't know. Listen, once we get there, I feel like everybody will understand why I'm not rooting for Ivy anymore. I don't think. I'm not saying I will never be rooting for Ivy again,
Yeah.
but
Oh, it's horrible. I'm not saying that it's
I
horrible.
don't
I'm just saying I
know.
still like Ivy as a
I don't
character.
know. So okay, so oh yeah, I like Ivy as a character, but am
Yeah,
I
that's what I'm
rooting for
saying. Yeah.
her in anymore? I don't think so. Right? Like, ugh, no, I'm certainly not rooting for her this week. Fuck her,
Yeah,
straight up,
there you go.
like for real. So she, girl, fuck you.
Yeah.
I can't. Okay, okay. So she tells Eve, "You're gonna fix the DNA test results." Eve says to her, "I won't do it. I won't do it. You can't make me." She says, "I'm not going to change John's DNA results." And Ivy then brings up the time that she changed medical documents before. She says, "You're no stranger to doctoring medical
Yeah.
documents, Eve. Remember what you did for me
Yeah.
before when I was trying to keep the secret that
Yeah.
Sam was not Sam, that, well, I guess Sam would have worked,
Julian
that
was
Julian wasn't." Oh my
that
God.
Julian was the Ethan's father.
When I was trying to keep the secret that Sam was Ethan's father. That's
There
the
you
sentence I'm
go.
trying to say. Um so
What a day today.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, at some point she does Ivy does her normal threats. I'll tell TC about your affair with Julian. And she also brings up the baby, which again, this is heartless Ivy. She's like, I don't forget that you had a love child that died and probably and this was the hurtful thing.
Mhm.
Most likely because of your drug use. And it's like
Mhm.
you all of this is too much, but
Yeah.
that definitely was like she's stone cold. Ivy's
Yeah.
stone cold right
I was
now.
disgusted. I was
Yeah.
disgusted. And then I mean, especially since they did share a moment about her baby before, like they had, and Ivy was really sympathetic to her about her
Yeah.
baby before, and I know they're trying to make us believe that it's like the pain and the drugs talking through Ivy, but at a certain point it's like that's inside of you,
No, I
right?
yeah.
That's not,
Yeah.
I don't care how much pain I'm in, how many drugs I'm on. I'm never going to tell somebody that their baby died because of their drug use,
Yeah.
right? Like somebody who's gotten themselves clean, who's devastated over the loss, even if they haven't. Even if they haven't, that's a
Yeah.
horrible, horrible thing to say to somebody. It was disgusting. So anyway, and that's not even the worst thing she fucking did this week. So strap in, everybody. So Ivy renews the blackmail, but she says this entire town will see you for the slut that you really are. She says, you are going to change those results or I'm going to ruin your life. Eve says to her, not this time.
Yeah.
Not this
Yeah.
time. And I
She was.
loved it.
Oh, she was like, tell TC about my past with Julian and don't leave anything out. I thought that was such a good line. The way she
Mhm.
just was like, tell him everything.
She says, tell him I don't care anymore. She says, if TC finds out about my past, I don't have to worry about TC going after Julian and killing him because Julian is gone. She
Yeah.
said so. So that was one of her bigger issues, is that she was very concerned that TC would murder Julian and then he would go away to
Yeah.
prison for the rest of his life, or
Yeah.
worse, get the chair.
Yeah.
Give him the chair. So she says, no, but Julian's gone, so I don't have that to worry about anymore. And then she says, and my husband has been honest with me about his past, and we love each other deeply. And I think our marriage is strong enough to handle my past. And maybe it's time I tell him the truth.
Yeah.
And maybe it's time I'm honest with him about my past. She says, our marriage is strong and can get through anything. And Ivy says, dream on, Eve. She says the minute TC finds out about Julian and the baby, he'll be out the door in a flash. And then Eve kind of snaps. She's like, I am so tired of this. I'm so tired of you holding my past over my head. Do whatever you want, but just be careful because it might backfire on you, Ivy.
And
I
I
loved
love the
it.
attitude change here because Ivy feels like she's had already thought this all out. And when she says it could backfire on you, Ivy just whole demeanor changes and goes, what are you talking about?
And Eve says to her, Ethan will inevitably hear about all of this, and he'll find out the lengths his mother would go to destroy someone's life. And he will see you for the person that you are, an evil, selfish, conniving bitch. And he'll have nothing more to do with you. So see you. I love it. She says, so see, Ivy, you have as much to lose as I do. Or as you think I do. That's what she
Yeah,
said.
that was really
She
good.
said,
Yeah.
you have as much to lose as you think I do. And this was such a great back and forth, a
Oh
great
yeah.
exchange. I
Uh,
loved it.
her delivery, um, Eve's delivery of evil, selfish, conniving bitch, which is funny because they ended the episode on that line and then they started the next episode showing us that thing again. I was like, it was that good. It deserved to be watched twice. And I watched both of them and I just really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eve's so freaking sick and tired of this, and God bless her. Can you
Yeah.
imagine?
Yeah.
And you're having to hurt your friend all the time. And yeah,
Yeah. So Eve threatens to expose Ivy and all her misdeeds, right? But then Ivy turns the tables. I love this. They just kept turning that lazy Susan.
yeah,
They kept spinning it around and around to one another. She turns the tables saying, I have other information on you, Eve. What if I told Sam that I saw you with a gun the night that Julian was murdered? And then on top of that, we bring in the motive that you would have to murder Julian. Looks like you're going to jail for murder, right?
yeah.
And she says, because I know you had a gun that night. And Eve says, how did you know that? And Ivy says, you just
You
told
just
me.
told me. It's so cliche. I knew that everyone saw that coming a mile away. The tables get turned again is that Eve starts saying, Ivy, you probably murdered Julian. I can just easily say you had a gun and you killed Julian. And to which Ivy's defense is, I'm in a wheelchair.
But you did have a gun and you were going to shoot him. She's the one person that pulled the
Who?
trigger.
So who cares if you're in a wheelchair? You can totally your arm, you have your everything is you can still do stuff. So, like, if she's this poor innocent woman who happens to be in a wheelchair.
She had Julian cornered. The only reason she didn't murder Julian is because her gun didn't go off.
Oh
She
yeah,
pulled the
that's
trigger.
absolutely right. Yeah,
She
yeah,
pulled the trigger. She's the only person of this group that did.
yeah,
So yeah, that is not a good argument. We're not buying it, and neither was Eve.
yeah,
Eve is like, oh, whatever, Ivy. I can play. She says, see, listen, two can play this game. So basically, you have nothing on me, and I'm
yeah.
not gonna do what you ask me to do. And
That back and forth keeps going on until.
oh wait,
Oh,
I'm gonna
go ahead.
say this last thing. She says, and also Ivy, between the two of us, who are the people in this town gonna believe? You or me? Saint Eve, right?
Yeah,
So that's when Eve gets a phone call from Simone, who
yeah,
wants to like stay out at the youth center party.
yeah. Can I just say this conversation was so cute? Like it felt real. I thought the actress did a great job of just being like, "Mama, Ma, is it cool if I stay later?" Like it just was really sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, so after she tells her, yeah, of course, is Whitney staying? Yeah, Whitney's staying. Okay, just as long as Whitney's there, you can stay. And they hang up, right? When Eve's done with her conversation with Simone, she turns back to Ivy and tells her, after all the hell you've put me through, I can't wait for you to be destroyed. Sweet dreams. And then she leaves. I loved it. I loved it. As she's leaving, she's like, sweet dreams. And she
Yeah,
leaves. Oh, it was so good. And Ivy just like throws something at the door. She's like pissed, right? She's like,
yeah.
ah!
I mean, it is. Can you imagine how hard she schemed and how she made this? This has been months of episodes, a couple days in Harmony, but like, but probably the preparation, right? Hiring this person, finding this person, coercing this person, finding the black. Like, this is a lot of work that we did not see her do, and all the money she spent that we did not know about to make this happen,
Yeah.
and to see that it's about to blow up in your face. The desperation on Ivy is so incredible to watch.
Yeah. So she's spinning out, losing her mind, and she comes up with this new scheme to force Eve to help her with the DNA test. She says she's going to do it. I
Yeah.
know it. She's going to do it. I'm going to make her do it. And
And
she
Sheldon.
calls
Oh, I was
some
about to say, yeah.
guy named Marty. She says, "Marty, it's me, Ivy Crane." And he says, "Oh, my best client." And she says, "Your best paying client." And he's like, "Well, what can I do for you?" Y'all, now this is the point in the episodes when my first of all, my jaw fucking dropped. My jaw dropped. I was shocked, shook, in disbelief. I was so disgusted. Y'all, Ivy instructs this man to take some drugs. I guess he's her drug pusher because, she's been getting drugs from some random place. So it must be this guy. And when he
Oh,
came up, I was like, who is he? But he's got to
yeah.
be her drug dealer, right?
That's smart.
He,
Or her point person or somebody
he's
to
her
get her.
drug dealer. He's her plug. He's the plug.
Yeah.
And she instructs him to find Whitney Russell at the youth center at a children's dance, y'all. Find her at the youth center and drug her. So this man goes to the youth center and spikes Whitney Russell's drink. And we're going to talk about what happens to Whitney, but I was absolutely floored. I
Yeah.
was floored. And again, I know that we are meant to believe that Ivy's not entirely thinking straight because she's like she's drugged up and she's in so much horrible pain and she's like pushed up against a wall, but there is zero excuse for this. There is no
Oh,
excuse.
I don't consider that at all in this. This is Ivy. I don't consider drugs as the thing that's making her do this. This is Ivy. I really don't. I think Ivy would do this if she was in pain or not in pain. I think Ivy is that desperate. So again, I just want to reiterate, I am not, because I'm smiling at some of these things on here, but like I'm laughing at the crazy storylines. I'm not laughing at what's happening to what's going to happen to Whitney. And also, again, Ivy as a character, not Ivy's actions, that I like.
Yeah, I in my notes I wrote that Ivy is a fucking menace. I and it kind of tears it for me. This is one of those like,
Like
oh,
Julian,
this is
watch
one of those
rewatching
things.
Julian do what Therese do that to
Yep.
it's reminding us because yeah, when was the last time we saw this? This was
I don't.
2002. I mean,
I never saw this. This is a day that I did never saw, right? Like I've never seen this before in my life.
I
I did
remember
not know
this.
that
Yeah,
this happened. I did not know. I vaguely remember Whitney being like drunk, or I don't think I even registered that she had been drugged, right? But I did not remember that Ivy had Whitney drugged. I did not remember that.
just like if I were to have amnesia on St. Lisa's, like I when I rewatched it, I started to get flashbacks of like, oh, I remember this. And the reason I remember this is because, well, we're gonna get there. And
Okay.
I'll explain why, because it's gonna go straight into that storyline. But
Yeah, that's
anyway,
yeah.
all that to say, it's like these are the things that we forgot our villains do, because our villains do some crazy stuff, but there's some things that are a little bit more sinister than others, and
And
this is pretty sinister.
And I'll say this. I remember when Ivy drugged Grace. It's not like I didn't know Grace was, it's not like I didn't know Ivy was capable of drugging somebody, right? It's the fact that, one, when she drugged Grace, which was a horrible, horrible, horrible thing.
And
But
again, thank you
what,
for bringing that up. Is I'm just going to say briefly that I'm sorry, Sam and Grace brought that up in this week. They did bring it up. They were like, "Well, she did do this." Somebody brought it up, that the drugging of
oh,
Grace.
they did?
Yeah,
I thought they didn't know Grace got drugged.
I thought they brought it up in passing, or
I think
something
I don't think
about.
I don't think Sam and Grace know that Grace was drugged. I think they
Oh,
just know that Ivy schemed to go on that weekend with them and like be in the same room and get it. But I don't know if they know that Grace was drugged, because I feel
okay.
like if
Maybe I
Sam had
misheard.
known
I
that,
thought they did.
I feel like if Sam had known that, I mean, it's a crime, and it is a crime against his own wife. I would imagine he would at
I don't think.
least
Not anymore. Not me.
write the lady a citation. Shit.
Parking ticket. Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah, I guess I
but
guess
maybe
I
they did. I
misheard,
might
but
have missed it
yeah.
because I'd be watching these fast. I'd be
Yeah,
zooming through the episodes.
yeah,
So I may have missed it. But yeah. So I remember when she drugged Grace. To me, there's several key differences between when she did that and her doing this. And I want to be clear, when she did it to Grace, I was like disgusted too. I was like, this
yeah,
lady is a psychopath.
yeah,
But one, Grace was in a hotel room with her husband. She wasn't like out in a public space with lots
yeah.
of strange people. Two, Grace is also a grown woman, and I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying but there's something so sinister about drugging
Mhm.
somebody's child. There
Yeah.
is something
No,
so
that's
incredibly sinister about drugging someone's child to get them to do something that you want them to do.
oh, it's horrible. Again, when you rewatch it, you're just like, this is where we're going. Like it caught me off guard because I forgot, like you did. I forgot that this happened. But it's like, Ivy, you are capable of doing anything you want, really, and this is what you're coming up with.
Oh my God.
Just
So,
she caught up. She could have found a way to like keep talking to Eve, because the more you sink in that because she like that's why they went through all of that, so that way they tried their best to justify Ivy's actions, because she even hit it with the like, you won't be a doctor anymore. She was trying. She listed everything she could, and then
mhm,
when Eve was like, you know what, go for it. I really don't care anymore.
yeah,
it- that's where these writers are like, okay, this is how desperate Ivy is. But again,
yeah.
I just think that like we talked about, there are certain things that you just like. Ivy has no code of ethics.
No,
That's just what it is.
no. Ivy has no code of ethics, that's for
Yeah.
sure. Okay, so let's talk about what happens with Eve and TC. Eve and TC
Oh
leave
yeah.
the mansion and they go for a little late night stroll in the park, and they have some outdoor champagne in the spot where TC proposed to Eve. It's the anniversary of the day that he proposed to her. So they have a conversation where he starts talking about how perfect she is
Yeah.
and how she grew up so privileged, and he's, just a boy from the wrong side of the tracks, and he's so lucky to be with her, that she chose him, and that there's nothing in her past that could ever be, disappointing, and just all of this stuff about her being
Yeah.
perfect. And she is ready to come clean. She finds like,
Yes.
TC, there's something I got to tell you. And he's like, what is it, honey? You're scaring me. What is it? And as she's about to say something, her phone rings. Ring, ring, ring. And it's Simone. And Simone is frantic, telling her mother something is wrong with Whitney. She's acting crazy. You need to get over here. I'm terrified. I'm scared. So they go to the youth center. So we need to talk about that.
Yeah. And again, Simone, I thought did such a good job in these phone calls. I really enjoyed them.
Yeah.
Like the acting, it was so
Yeah.
good. I was really impressed.
I agree. Christy Ferris. I sent her a
Yes.
message. I sent her a message on Instagram, but she never responded to me.
Well, well, here we are giving her a shout out. I enjoyed both Simone's, like I really do. So I thought she did a fantastic job this week in those
Yeah.
phone calls.
All right. So let's move on. Let's talk about these kids that are at this dance at the youth center.
We got yeah. Are we in magic?
Yep,
The
magic.
kids are magic. It's magic.
Oh, it's magic. Never believe it's not so. It's magic.
Ooh.
It's magic. I have a bunch of different ones. I'm not gonna subject y'all to it. Do have like voice changer ones.
Hello.
Oh my God.
Okay, so anyway,
Oh my God, you brought back evil charity memories.
I know, it's gonna be.
Can you
great.
imagine if you had that during
I
evil
know.
charity time?
Yeah, that would have been awesome. Yeah, it'll come up again. There's like some devil stuff coming up. I think. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly.
Oh my
There's some hell
goodness.
stuff coming up. Okay, so the kids, they're at this dance, and let's start off by talking about Tabitha and Green. Let's like get that out of the way. Let's get it out of the way. It was excellent. It was one of my favorite. I will be
I
clipping it for the social media because it
good.
was my favorite thing this week. It
I'm
was
so
easily my favorite thing
happy.
this week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about it. What
Yeah.
happened?
Oh well, it's the same old tale as old as time, Beauty and the Beast. Ross cannot Ross can't leave Tabitha alone. He has to keep egging her on about how he thinks Timmy was actually that doll, and somehow that doll has turned to life. So last week we basically ended, or at the week we ended with Tabitha being like, everybody's really impressed with Timmy on the dance floor, and she's just so happy about it, and she's like, that's my Timmy. He's basically like a living doll. So then Ross is like, oh man, I got you. Because he's a witch, because you're a witch, he's a doll, and then they start to basically fight with one another, and they're talking about how he basically does a lot of ageist jokes here, and it's just like, you're a fossil, like, you would never be able to like get with the times and know this music, you're not hip. And Tabitha's like, I'll show you who's hip. And she's like, she basically takes him out on the dance floor, and they have a long dance segment together that lasts like a whole episode.
Okay, a couple of things here.
Yeah.
Number one, Reese says to her, like, what are you even doing here? I bet you can't even dance. So
Yeah.
he basically challenges her to a dance off, right? Like, she's like, I'll show you. And they go out on the floor.
Yeah.
And the second thing is, it is reminiscent of, do you remember that episode of the Golden Girls? Of course you do. The episode of the
Oh yeah,
Golden
yeah.
Girls where they go to the
Exhausted.
dance-a-thon.
I'll show you who's exhausted.
Yeah.
Maestro, how about something with a little octane?
Yeah, and bum ba da bum 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 bum, and yeah, but then we get Rose who comes out and
Yeah.
she's like, yeah, I should do this one by myself. She's off her
Yeah.
partner and does all of those different like tricks and flips and
And
things.
you
And it's the
basically
same
see a
thing.
stunt double go in for Betty White. We basically had a stunt double go in for Juliet Mills.
It is the same thing. It looks
Yeah.
the same. It's very it was great. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
It
At
was
some
wonderful.
point, when they were, joshing each other, just messing with each other, Tabitha calls him Ross, and he's like, "It's Reese." To which Tabitha's like, "Oh, you've changed your name."
Yeah, that was so funny. That was so funny. And then once she finally is done, she dances him down. Like dances him
Uh-huh.
to exhaustion, right? And
Yeah.
she's fine. And he's like falling over.
Yeah.
And then she says to him, "Oh, thank you, Reese." Or Ross, sorry. She never says
Yeah.
Reese. She says, I haven't danced like that in over 300 years.
And she did it with a little, like a little gleam in her eye, a little nod, like, "Come for me." Like she really, and it's so funny because they are talking about it. The dance floor is going crazy. At some point, first of all, again, Timmy, everybody's attracted to Timmy. They're infatuated with Timmy. And at some point, this girl's like, "Wow, like your aunt's really good." And she's like, "Timmy taught his aunt everything she knows." He's like,
Yeah.
"I could teach you too." So like, Tabitha and Timmy are having the time of their lives at this dance right now.
Yeah. So now, not everybody's having a good time though. Pretty much nobody's having a good time at this dance. Let's
Oh,
talk
yeah,
about everybody
yeah,
else.
yeah. He
Let,
says there's plenty of Timmy to go around. I just wanted to throw that out there. I thought it was
aw,
funny. Yeah.
Tim. So nobody's having a good time at this dance. Let's talk about it. Uh Miguel can't stand seeing Charity dancing. Charity is dancing with John. Remember last week she was like, "Ever
Yes.
heard of kissing cousins?" So she's been like rubbing her body all over him. She's like trying her best to make out with him. He's super uncomfortable, and Miguel comes over and he breaks them up, and he kind of like lays into John and is
This
like,
is the second time where he goes after, like, he went after Hank and he went after John, and it's just kind of, it's just, I don't know how he doesn't see that it's zombie Charity doing this, like how blinded he is by this.
"Yeah,
But again, Charity was, they were like, there was no room for the Holy Ghost between Charity and John. To which
no."
John again was like, "Aren't we related?" And I felt like Charity was going to say the line from Not Another Teen Movie. She was like, "Aren't we related?" And Charity was pretty much like, "Yeah, only by blood." Like she didn't care. But yeah, Miguel confronts John, and it's just, I don't know. It really annoys me.
Yeah, he confronts him. He's just like, Don't you know she's my girlfriend? Get your hands off my girlfriend." Da da da. And but Charity, John like throws his hands up. He's like, "Hey man,
I'm
I
not.
didn't want to
Yeah,
do this. I wasn't even consenting to all of that
yeah,
touching." And
yeah,
then he basically just leaves. He's like, "I'm done with this. This is too
yeah,
weird for me." And Charity then tell a zombie, of course, tells Miguel in no uncertain terms to leave her alone. Like she is very clear. "I don't want to be with you. I don't want to be around you. Leave me alone." To me, that is at this point, it is a very clear statement. And yes, we all know that she's zombie Charity, but Miguel has no reason to believe really that that isn't the real Charity.
yeah.
He is operating under the assumption that that is the real Charity, and with that information, at this point, he should just leave her alone because, like I said, I haven't said it yet. I said it on the watch party,
Yeah.
but it's moving into stalker territory,
Yeah.
right? Like she's telling you to leave her alone. You won't leave her alone. It's about to become a crime to
Yeah.
continue. It's about to become harassment. And so, but of course he's not done messing with her.
Yeah.
So at this point, Miguel is really upset. Miguel gets really upset. He is like just wants to be alone. If Kay tries to like dance with him or something, and he's like, "I just
Yeah.
want to be alone. I just want to be myself." And he
Yeah.
he like leaves.
I don't know
And
how I put Miguel's Luisness came out in these moments.
whatever it is, I don't know. He was upset and
Yeah.
he left. And Kay then pulls Zombie Charity out to the side and gives her a stern talking to, right? About running Miguel off. And she says, "I wanted you to be mean to him, not like make him not want to be here anymore." Right?
Yeah,
Like,
but in Zombie Charity's defense, it's like, what do you want? I mean, like, you need to be more specific. Like,
Yeah.
You said be mean to him, and I'm trying, and this man's still not leaving me alone. So I keep
Mhm.
increasing my meanness. He does not get it. So this is your guy that you want. You need to give you some
Mhm.
more instruction. Um, also, I will say I wrote this down the other day. Miguel can have anyone in Wisteria Lane, but he's hell bent on getting Charity. Like he's like, I need Charity.
Yeah.
And John left. He's uncomfortable, so he finally did leave.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I like that he's like, I didn't think Charity was like this.
Yeah, and the kids are like, "Yeah, she normally isn't. She didn't used to be like this." Charity tells Kay that, you know what, or Zombie Charity tells Kay, I've done exactly what you've told me to do. So if you don't like it, you need to fix your instructions, basically.
Yeah.
And Kay says, well, why don't we try something else? So she gives her something else to do, and we don't exactly know what it is
Yeah.
until
Tabitha and
we
Timmy are
do.
trying to figure it out. Yeah, they're like, well, she's up to something, so we just got to be there and see what it is because it's
Yeah.
got to be good. Tabitha's like, whatever it is, I'm sure it's going to be great. So we got to
Kay
watch.
Kay whispers something into Zombie Charity's ear, and Zombie says, are you sure? It's gonna hurt. And Kay says, I don't mind a little pain if it's going to help me make Miguel mine.
Yeah.
Um, no pain, no gain, I guess. No pain, no
Yeah.
gain. So, Kay goes over to Chad, who is DJing, right? Goes over to
Yes.
the DJ booth and asks Chad to play a slow song. She says she wants to give Miguel and Charity a chance to be together tonight. So she also asks him, requests of him to do a couple switch. So she wants him to put on a slow song, and then once Miguel and Charity are kind of close to each other, dancing with other people, then he would announce that they have to do a couple switch and dance with the person that they're closest to, right?
Yeah.
And so again, this looks like Kay is trying to do a good thing, right?
Yeah.
She's,
Yeah.
I love the growth in this
It's
girl.
very smart. It's very smart planning.
I love the growth in this girl because her old plans were all so terrible, but this one is good.
Yeah.
This is a good, like, the whole thing. It's a pretty good plan. And if the evil didn't take on its own life, it
Yeah.
would work really
Yeah.
well, you know? So anyway, she makes this request. Chad is like, "You got it. I'm gonna do that." So she goes over to Miguel. She goes over to Miguel and tells him about the partner switch idea, and he's like, "You're such a good friend, Kay." And then they
Yeah.
slow dance together, okay,
Yeah.
for a little while, and Kay looks so happy while she's slow
Yeah.
dancing with them.
At this point, there's a moment where again Tabitha and Timmy are now watching again, and Timmy's like, I hate this, I don't like this, I miss the real Charity, and Tabitha changes tactics this week and is like, listen, aren't you the one who wants to be with Charity? Well, if Kay is successful in breaking them up, then maybe you might have a small chance. And Timmy lights up. He's like, Timmy will take it. So I just it doesn't last very long because he's still too good. He can't deal with it. But I just love that he was like, "Yeah, you're right."
You're right, girl. Okay, so the
Chad makes the switch happen.
yeah, they slow dance and the switch happens, and Charity, Zombie Charity, begrudgingly agrees to dance with Miguel, and then as they're dancing, she's like, "Ugh, this is so lame."
Yeah,
Um and she's like, we shouldn't be together. And then he's like, what, I don't know what to do, right? and
yeah,
and she's like, why aren't you listening to me? Is it because you're selfish or stubborn or both?
yeah,
It's fair because he's not listening to her.
yeah.
She
And I
keeps
will,
telling him, I don't want
I
to be
will,
touched by you.
I will say the hurt on Miguel's on Jesse Metcalf's face was really impressive. I was like, oh look, I mean, it was really really like he looked so hurt by these things, and I was like, poor guy.
Yeah. He says to her, I don't want to pressure you, but I can't help it. I love you and I want to know, or I he says to her, I don't mean to pressure you, but I can't help it. I love you and I want you to know that I will always be here for you. Um s- Charity, this zombie, is not moved, of course, right, by this. She just walks away from him. She walks away from him, and he's like, "Why are you acting like this?" and she's like, you know what? Because she, it again, the demeanor changes. She at first was like talking to him, and then she switches focus, right? Because she was first saying, I don't want to be with you. Why won't you listen to me? And then her focus shifts, and she's like, you know what? I was set up, and I know
Yeah.
exactly who did it. And he's like, what? What are you talking about? And then she just rushes over to Kay and she punches her in the face. I had to rewind. I had to
Yeah.
rewind because I had typed that she slapped her, but then I
No.
thought, I think I saw a closed ass fist.
Yeah. I
She
wrote
punched her.
zombie Charity punches the shit out of Kay.
She punched her. She fell down on the floor. She
Yeah.
punched her hard. And it was great. It was a great moment.
Tabitha was like, "Ooh!" Like I mean, everyone's reaction was like, "Oh my God!" Yeah,
Hmm.
it caught
Oh,
everybody by
I need
surprise.
that sound that's like,
Yeah,
damn.
that's basic. Yeah, if Tabitha could have said it, that's exactly how she would have responded.
So, yeah, she punches her in the face and she says, next time, mind your business. And then she leaves. She just walks off from her. And that's when the kids like rush over and to help Kay.
Yeah,
And Miguel asks, like, what happened? Kay's like, I don't know. She just came over here and punched me. I don't know what's going on with Charity. And then Simone, this was so weird. I
it
hated the way
was.
they wrote this.
This was
I
a hard
hated
sell.
it.
It was a hard sell, but
I
go for
hated
it.
the way they wrote it. Simone then looks at Kay like, and she's got on her accusatory face, right?
Yeah,
She's like, Kay, you know exactly why Charity punched you, and it's because of something you did. Wait, what? And it
yeah,
has to do with Miguel. What?
yeah.
And Kay's looking a little panicked. she thinks she
Tabitha
thinks
too.
Simone's gonna
She's
figure it
like,
out.
yeah. Tabitha's like, crap. She knows something's up.
Yeah, and so I thought I was like, "What is Simone talk?" Like I was confused. I was like, "What the hell is she even talking
Yeah,
about?" She doesn't know anything about Kay's plan.
yeah,
And so I was like, "I guess they not really best friends," because she was talking. It felt like she was talking mad shit about
yeah.
Kay after she just got punched in the face.
And it
But
was,
that,
and not just what she was saying, it was also the tone and delivery because she is very accusatory. Very,
yeah,
it sounds like she's about to say the biggest K secret ever, and that's not what she does. But that's
no,
the way she sounded when she was saying her lines.
what she says is, "You're a true friend, Kay."
But now that's the message. But the lines preceding it are, okay, I know exactly what kind of person you are. I know what you did. You're a good friend.
Yeah,
What?
she says, "You're a
That was like
true
Grace
friend."
coming in and being like, "Why isn't David my son?" Like it was just a weird like turn, weird turn of
Yeah,
tonality.
it was
Yeah,
odd. And so she says, "You're a true friend," and she turns to Miguel and she says, "Miguel, she wanted so badly to do something nice for you and Charity." And then she explains the partner switch to Miguel, which Miguel already knew about. And the kids all talk about like we should tell on Charity. Like
which at least finally, again, the kids have been right all this time about Kay, but at least finally, it has taken this long of Zombie Charity's antics for them to be like, something's wrong with Charity. Like, for them to finally be like, Kay didn't do anything.
well,
Kay did not do anything.
she's escalated to violence.
Yeah,
And like not just a little bit, like she punched her down for absolutely no reason.
it's gonna
And
hurt.
we know this girl is crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like we know that she has like these crazy, like, I'm sorry. If I was in this world and one day Charity was sweet and I like Charity had been doing all her charity things, we're all doomed, we're all gonna die, we're all gonna die, we're all doomed, evil, evil, evil. And then one day she just switched and now all of a sudden she's kind of crazy and evil. It's like, yeah, I mean, I feel like I would have felt like she had that in her all the whole
Hmm.
time. She had the
Hmm.
capacity for that switch the whole time because something's clearly wrong with her brain.
Yeah.
Like something's wrong with the way she like uh what's the word, processes. There's
Hmm.
something's wrong with the way she processes. So like if you don't believe in the magic stuff, right, if we're
Yeah.
living in the real world, So yeah, I think it's very on brand for Charity. Like make a switch up like this. Honestly,
Yeah.
she's crazy. She's not well. She
Yeah.
hasn't been well for a very long time. But
No.
again, we know it's not the real Charity. It's just a
Yeah.
zombie Charity. So the kids are they're right that there's something wrong with Charity. Anyway, so the kids want to tattle. They want to tell on her. I agree. I feel like yeah, y'all should say something. Tell an adult. Tell an adult. Not that the adults are going to do anything. The
Yeah.
adults in this town are not going to do anything
And
the
you
good way.
know full well Grace would never believe this and or still take Charity's side.
100%. So then Kay convinces the kids like, no, we shouldn't tell. You know, she's been through enough. I don't think punishing her is gonna change anything, is gonna help anything.
And all of this stuff is making Kay's stock rise with the other kids. They're all like, "Oh yeah, look at her. She's a good friend. Like maybe she has a change to a new leaf." Like they are really impressed by Charity. I mean, by Kay not wanting to tell on Charity.
Yeah. And Miguel says to her, "You care more about Charity than you do yourself. You're a really good person, Kay."
Yeah.
Oh, he's so dumb. And so then Miguel, well, it's not his fault. He's not dumb for this. She's tricked him very well. Um then Miguel and Kay like have a conversation. Oh no, no. Miguel has a conversation with Teresa because Teresa and Whitney show up. So we're gonna talk about Teresa
Yes.
and Whitney next. But he basically brings Teresa up to speed on the whole situation.
Yes.
Yeah, she's talking
Yeah,
to him about the Lopez
Lopez
Fitzgerald
Fitzgerald
love curse.
curse, love curse.
And she's
It's
not
that damn
wrong.
noodle. It's the noodle.
It's the noodle. No, she's
Oh
not
wait, no,
wrong.
Teresa's worked, right? Teresa's was fine. It
Didn't
was
her? No,
Sheridan's.
yeah, Sheridan's broke.
Sheridan's that
Sheridan's
broke.
broke.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sheridan's broke.
So,
I'm sorry, that damn love noodle. Okay.
but it is funny. Teresa's like, "What's up with us and love? Like we suck at this."
Yeah, she's like, first Mama lost Papa, Sheridan's dead. I lost Ethan. I lost Ethan. She says, and now you've lost Charity, and God only knows what's going on with Antonio and Paloma, but probably nothing good. Probably nothing good. So she talks about giving up on love.
That is so funny. That is, I mean, and we don't, and also we don't care is basically how I feel like Teresa's thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let's talk about oh well, my papers fell, but I already read those. I already read those. Okay. So Zombie Charity, she talks to Timmy at one
Yeah,
point and she
it sounds
tells
kind of
him, I'm
flirty
on to you.
yeah, it
Yeah,
sounded flirty at
at
first.
first she's like coming on to him.
She's
I
like, "You
wrote
want
like
to?"
Zombie Charity's coming on to Timmy.
Now, see, that would have been my plan. If I were Kay, go get Zombie Charity to make out with Timmy. I mean, at this point, everybody's fair game.
Yeah.
Yeah, she says something jokingly like, "Let's boogie down," and then she finally is like, "Oh, I'm on to you, dollface. I know
Mhm.
much more than you think, way more. Pretty soon, you'll be dancing to my tune, and so will your little princess." And she blinks and opens her eyes, and she basically has like snake eyes, and she tells Timmy, "I'm in control now."
Mhm.
Uh, and Timmy hauls ass to Tabitha and is like, "Hey, you need to listen to me." Of course, Tabitha's so distracted by the kid stuff, but he's like, "Hey, I'm letting you know, like, she told me she's up to something. Like I, at one point, Timmy's like, I think she's up to something. I'm like, no, Timmy, she straight up told you she's up to something."
Yeah. Yeah. So they leave.
Yeah.
Like they get scared and leave. But then Timmy decides to go off on his own and he goes
Yes.
over to the charity cave and
Yeah.
tries to free her. He moves the rocks one by one. I guess he didn't have to move that many for him to get into for him to be able to get into the
Hmm.
cave. It's not like he
Yeah.
has to open the whole thing because
Yeah.
he's so little.
Yeah.
And so he goes in there, he starts like chipping away at her at the ice.
And
Yeah.
he's actually chipping away at it. Like we do see, like he's making progress. I think if he had more time, it would probably take a long time, but he was chipping away at it, trying to get Charity out.
Yeah. So the zombie Charity, she meets back up with Kay to get her next orders. Like, what do you
Yeah.
want me to do next? And Kay says, I'll just keep playing the innocent victim and you just keep getting meaner and meaner. And the zombie says, the more evil I get, the happier I am. I love to cause misery and pain. And so Kay then talks to Miguel, tells him that he just needs to try and talk to Charity. You know, she's just like, again, just playing it up that
Yeah. Yeah.
she's rooting for them and wants him to get what he wants, even though she's
Yeah.
lying through her teeth. And he's like, you're so nice. You're so good and nice. He's like, you're special. He calls her special, says he's glad to have her in his life. And at one point, he's like, talking about, I guess I never realized how much, how painful love can be. And Kay gives a nice little speech. Let me see if I can find it. She gives a very nice speech. It was very lovely, actually. I really felt it because it was like one of the few moments in the week where Kay isn't acting, right? Like
Yeah.
she's being honest and open with
Yeah.
Miguel. And she says, you know, love can be very painful. You give your heart to someone and you're so vulnerable. You open yourself up to all kinds of hurt. But the joy you get from loving that person makes it all worth it.
Yeah.
And Miguel is like touched by this and he's like, wow, Miguel. He's like, wow, Kay, you've really changed. She's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, you're not that little kid I used to like hang out with, pal around with, and play softball with. You've become a woman, which made me gag when he said it. You've become a woman. Why are you?
Yeah.
I don't know why it just rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah.
But then he brings up Reese, which irritated the fuck out of me. Cause how many more times does this girl have to declare her feelings for this idiot boy? I'm sick of it. I'm sick of this circular thing that we're doing with these two, where Kay has confessed her feelings to Miguel multiple times at this point, and in fact, they have kissed multiple times. He knows how she feels about him. He knows it,
Yeah.
and yet he pretends like he doesn't know.
Well, and one of the more shocking things is how is it that Sam and Grace know this? You know, adults live very different, faraway lives from the kids at this point. How do the two of them know this and he cannot see it, nor any of the other kids? But well, does Jessica has a crush on Ross, but does she not think that they are together? I'm always confused by these.
Yeah,
I don't
I'm
know.
not entirely sure about the whole Jessica thing. I feel like they sloppily threw in her crush on Reese and didn't really work through the kinks of it,
Yeah.
considering we know for a fact that Jessica knows that Kay is disgusted by Reese,
Yeah,
right? So,
but they're in a relationship,
yeah, but
so
she thinks they're together somehow. I don't know. I
yeah,
don't know. I don't know. But yeah, he brings Miguel. He brings up Reese. He's so annoying. He says, um, Kay says, but Miguel, I want to be with you. Cause he's like, you should go back inside and be with Reese. You know, he's your boyfriend. I'm so sorry I tore you two apart tonight, whatever. She says, but I want to be with you. And he's like, why? And then he's like, no, I already know. It's because you're a good person.
yeah,
No, and maybe it's because of those 3 times you kissed her. And maybe it's because of those 3 times she told you she loved you. And maybe it's because of all those times you told her if Charity had never come to town that y'all would be together. It could be that.
that
Ugh, I
alone,
can't stand him.
yeah,
I don't like this man.
yeah,
I don't. Um. Anyway, he then posits, and I liked this, that maybe evil has come to Harmony.
yeah,
Maybe evil has come to Harmony and taken over Charity the same way it took over Kay's house. I mean, I liked it.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a it's like likely thing to deduce, you
Yeah.
know.
So while they're out walking, they walk past the cave where Timmy is, and Timmy's there, and then evil zombie Charity shows up
Yeah,
and
because
catches
he
him in
was.
the act.
Yeah, because when he was chipping away at it, while Zombie Charity was at the dance, she got some like shivers, not or like some kind of like something's up,
Yeah.
and she told Kay like, "You go focus on Miguel. I need to go focus on something right now."
Yeah.
And she goes and catches Timmy chipping away at it.
Mm-hmm.
That's when Tabitha shows up as well, and when she shows up. it's the jig is up. She basically is like, I know y'all are evil like me, and she also does a plug for Hidden Passions
Yeah.
paperback edition. She's like, hey, she's like, I know who y'all are. She goes, because I got this Hidden Passions paperback. I'm happy I got it because it has extra stories on it, which it does. It has extra stuff on it, and she's like, I know who y'all are, and basically, I'm in control now. And s- she basically is like, I know you don't have any powers, Tabitha, but in fact, I have powers. I don't. Did she say she had Tabitha's powers?
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Okay, this will be a spoiler at some point. She does say that at some point she's been in communication with the boys in the basement, basically. But I
Mhm.
don't think she said it yet. But we do know she has powers because bolts of lightning come shooting out of her fingers as she attacks Tabitha and Timmy.
Yep, she started zapping at him, just like our evil charity from episodes like 250.
Yeah.
So happy to have her back.
Yeah.
Um, so that's what's going on in the cave. So there's light coming from the cave. Kay and Miguel see the light and hear not Tabitha,
Timmy's
Timmy.
Timmy's
Timmy
screaming.
yells. Right. And so of course, typical Miguel, he's like, let's run towards the danger. And so
Yeah.
he's like, we have to go see what that light is. Why?
Yeah.
Why? I don't care. But whatever. That's where we ended with them this week. So now let's talk about Ethan, Teresa, Gwen, that other girl, Whitney.
Yeah.
Whitney and Chad, all of these children, also these other children, these older children, but still
Also, I
children.
want it to be very clear how small Harmony is. Word will get around that Tabitha is kicking ass on the dance floor. It even ends up getting to the book cafe, so that's really funny.
Yeah, yeah. So let's speed on through this, zip on through because almost three. Okay. We're talking Teresa. Okay. Teresa is having a conversation with Whitney, saying she's lost Ethan for good. What else is new, right? Whitney tells her, you've got a lot to live for because Teresa's feeling very sorry for herself. She's like, my life is over, right? What am I going to do? I'm basically going to be a single mother, right? I mean, she's not wrong. I
Yeah.
do feel for her. She's in a very horrible situation.
She'll be a single mother working two jobs who loves her kids and never stops with
With a
gentle
gentle
hand.
heart and the heart of a fighter, I'm
Teresa
a survivor.
is
Teresa's a
a
survivor.
survivor.
Teresa, she's like Reba.
Which, by the way, I am just very grateful that this week, at least for a while, Teresa is helping Whitney out.
Well, what else can she do? She doesn't have anything to
Yeah,
do this week.
exactly. But I'm like, this friendship tends to be a little one-sided sometimes because, and it's not because Teresa doesn't care. It's just that Teresa has too many problems.
Teresa has a lot going on, and
Yes,
Whitney has things going on too, but none of it's interesting because she's such a goody goody, and
Eh,
we talk about that this week.
yes, yeah.
Yeah. So it was nice to see Teresa being like there for Whitney for a change. So yeah, even though she did make the conversation about herself a few times, right? But mostly it was just to be like, use me as your example.
Yeah.
You don't want to be
You
like
don't want to be
me.
like me.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's that. Anyway, um, Ethan and Gwen are having a conversation where Gwen asks Ethan what Teresa said to him, and he explains that Teresa like had begged for her to take him back or for him to take her back. Gwen seems sympathetic this week about it. I don't know, maybe not. We'll see. And then she asks him if he would ever uh take her back, if he would ever be able to forgive her. And he says he doesn't know, but forgiveness is different than making a life together. And that was one of the few times Ethan has ever said anything that I 100% wholeheartedly agreed with. Forgiving someone is very different than making a life with that person.
Yeah.
Yeah, very astute. That was a
Yeah,
good.
because Gwen was like, "You've forgiven Teresa before in the past. What makes you think you wouldn't do it again?" And his response was that, and it was good.
Yeah. So Ethan and Gwen decide to go to the children's dance. For some reason, these grown people decide to go to the dance where the children are. And When they get there, they talk to Chad, and Chad tells Ethan, away from Gwen, tells Ethan that he knows that Teresa still loves him and that he loves her too. But
Yeah.
Ethan explains to him, this time it's over for good. And he says, as much as it hurts to end things with Teresa, she lied, and I've given her too many chances already.
I I love this. I don't know if you had this, but he goes, Ethan said that Teresa asked for a second chance, to which Chad responds, second chance? Man, that girl can't count.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Yeah, that was so funny. So, but then Ethan turns the conversation onto Chad and tells him that he needs to not give up on hope for Whitney,
Yeah.
and says that he says she obviously has feelings left for you, so you should probably pursue that, explore that. Um, Chad basically says there's only so many times you can be rejected. Fair
Yeah.
enough. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So Ethan and Gwen then like dance together and they reminisce about their time as blue
Cotillion.
buds together. They
Yeah.
they reminisce,
Cotillion.
yeah, about cotillion and times at the country club and our lives together in Europe and all the like all of the
Yeah.
rich people things that they used to do together, right?
Yeah.
And they're laughing about their old rich friends. It is at this point that Teresa has convinced Whitney to go to the youth center for a dance, that for
Yeah.
them to go together.
They
Teresa was not.
jokingly,
Go
well, they
ahead.
jokingly, some kids came in from the dance and they're like, "Can you believe that Tabitha lady can like bust a move like that?" And so they overhear that, and Teresa's like, "We have to go." And it's full, like, yeah, but it's definitely like they talk about it's Chad Harris's music that made Tabitha dance that way, and so they were taught, because they mentioned Chad, Teresa's like, "Let's go over there and let's go see what's up."
Yeah. So in the course of that conversation, when they're about to go over to the youth center, Whitney talks about how she can't stop thinking about um Chad, and how the only reason that they're not together is because she promised Simone that she wouldn't be with him after her hit and
Yeah.
run, even though Simone doesn't even know about that, right? Simone doesn't even know about that promise. Simone's never heard that before in her life because she
Yeah.
was in a coma.
Well, and yeah, and that's something that I needed to correct Teresa on. Teresa said something about like Teresa keeps saying Whitney made a promise to Simone, but she did not. Whitney made a promise to God. Like they have rewritten that. Like she told God, if you do this, I will leave Chad forever. So I think that there there's some
I think
wording
there's
there.
some gray. I feel like there's some gray area there, because I do think that it was like
She
kind of
bargained with,
she
yeah,
did bargaining, but it did also feel like she was making the promise to Simone too.
mm,
I don't know. I can give them a little bit of grace on
yeah.
this.
Either way, Whitney owes nobody anything.
Mm-mm.
Uh,
No.
I've said this before. I don't think you should be promising stuff to God. But also, like, Teresa's correct. Simone didn't hear anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So Teresa tells her, she gives her the advice you would expect Teresa to give, right? Um, she
Go
tells
get your
her,
man.
yeah, she says, go get your man. There's nothing I can do to be with Ethan. I've blown every single chance I've ever gotten with him. But there's so much you can do to still be with Chad. You just got to do it. Right. And
Yeah.
she's just giving her this pep talk, and she's telling her, let's go over to the youth center. Let's go to the dance. Let's do it. So um they decide to go to the youth center, even though Whitney says, it's probably too late, like Chad was with Kelly. And Teresa's like, the only reason he's with her is because you kept pushing him away. So
Which is
just
correct.
go tell him,
Yeah.
you go get your man, girl.
And Chad is not with her, but it's that girl is pursuing Chad. So much so that at some point during the
Mhm.
dance, Kelly is like all over Chad. And it's so funny to me because, so we're tracking this. Not once this week does Simone have a conversation with Chad.
No. And
But, yeah, go for it.
no, I do want to talk about
Yeah.
one crazy thing that Simone says. She's so
Yes, because
delusional.
while they're, oh, I wrote this. I'm ready. Let's have this conversation because Kelly and Chad are holding. Kelly's holding Chad. Chad's kind of just like, whatever. It is what it is. Like he is not pursuing this. I want to make it very clear that I don't. He's just not turning her away. I think Kelly's the more. If I'm wrong, please correct me.
No,
But she's
you're
the
right.
more. Yeah, she's the more handsy one. Like just kind of holding him, embracing him, kind of trying to like slow dance with him.
Oh yeah, no, she's very over the top. She's very much the aggressor in the
Yeah,
situation, right?
yeah,
She's the more dominant force in that situation. He's
yeah,
not he's not that much he's not that into her. I think he's just using her kind of as a distraction. She came on to him. She asked
yeah,
him out. He said, "Why not?" Right?
yeah.
So, let's talk about this crazy thing that Simone said before Whitney and Teresa get there. Whitney talks to not Whitney,
Jessica.
Simone talks to Jessica, and Jessica mentions that Kelly's like dancing with Chad, and Simone's like, "Oh, he's just dancing with her. It's not a big deal. Like I know Chad loves me." And then she says, Chad's just waiting till I turn 18 to make his move because he knows my dad would never go for us being together until I'm 18. She's so delusional.
It's
Girl,
so
you've been calling him
dumb.
your boyfriend.
But that's where I was like, wait, what are you talking about? Like you already in your head think you're dating, like dating, holding hands, like love each other, and then you've never had any of those signs, any of those actions done. Maybe
No.
they probably had like misunderstandings because that's what we always do. But this was, and what's so funny is this conversation, the things that are coming out of her mouth in the background, you can watch this girl holding Chad in a very seductive way while Simone is like, he loves me. They're just dancing. They're just friends. And I just wrote down, I want to be in the same delusional world that Simone lives in because it looks like fun.
Yeah, it's sad actually. I I would never want to be that delusional. So, oh Lord. But so Simone just was doing too much this week because we had her doing that, and the stuff with Kay was weird. So she
Yeah.
was just not making any sense. Was she on drugs? Is she on drugs? Is she the
Yeah.
one? Okay, so speaking of drugs, Whitney. Uh well, first of all, let's just quickly talk about what happens with Teresa. Teresa sees
Ethan and
Ethan and Gwen
Gwen.
together. She bumps into Ethan truly accidentally at one point. They both kind of like run into each other, and he doesn't even speak to her, and he just walks away from her. It wasn't like callous, it was like he was speechless, right? Like he
Yeah,
just didn't
yeah.
know what to say. And then Gwen just kind of called him away. It was like, Ethan, and he walked away.
And I don't think Gwen was ever really mean to Teresa throughout this week
Mm-mm.
either. She just, at some point, they bump into each other as well, and she's like, "Oh, Teresa, I didn't see you here." But there wasn't anything mean. It was just kind of like everyone was like not expecting to see each other at this dance that they
No
should
words
not
were
be at in the
exchanged.
first place.
No words were exchanged. Yeah, Gwen and Ethan shouldn't be there.
Maybe
It's a
all
dance
they
for the
needed to
youth.
say was, let's go, listen. You want to go listen to Chad play some music?" That would have made it make sense. Like, okay,
They
like
could
they don't got
literally go
anything.
to a club. Y'all are
Yeah,
old enough to go to a club. Why are you at this gymnasium with all these children? Mm-mm. So anyway, um, Teresa at one point goes outside after having seen Ethan and Gwen together, and she's upset. She's doing the Teresa thing.
yeah.
Woe is me, I've lost him forever. She goes outside without her coat, and Ethan instinctually just picks up her coat, comes outside, very tenderly places it around her shoulders. Teresa takes this to mean, you still love me. I knew that you would come back to me. I knew God would bring you back to me. And she
And he
throws her arms
says,
around
"Yes, of
him.
course I still love you, but
Yeah.
we are not together.
We
I
are not
do
together,
not
and you're
want
gonna
to
have to
get
move on
back
with your life.
together."
Yeah.
Yeah.
He tells her you have to move on with your life. And you have to move on with your life without me. Yeah. So that's that for them this week. So let's talk about Whitney. Whitney was upset when she got to the dance because she sees Kelly and Chad together, right?
To which she says, "I lost him." And Teresa said, "Lost him? When did you ever fight for him?"
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was a good retort.
She's absolutely right. So to Whitney then has a very short conversation with Chad. Like she sees him, they talk for a moment, and then because she's like, I have something I want to tell you. And then Kelly interrupts, right? And she tells Chad, "Hey Chad, this song's about to end. You're needed at the DJ booth." As if he's a doctor or something.
He
Like
just like
you're needed
Luis,
in surgery.
just like
No, it's a
Luis
DJ
is the
booth.
just like Luis is the law. Chad is the music. Chad is the DJ.
I
So
am the music. Yeah.
he doesn't need that warning. Like, yeah,
Well, and later on, he talks about how the thing has been programmed for 30 minutes. So,
yeah,
like, I imagine whatever. She tells him,
yeah.
This song's about to end. You're needed at the DJ booth. So he leaves, but he tells Whitney, like, we can talk later, right? Can we talk later? She's like, sure. Well, Whitney starts to walk away from Kelly, and Kelly's like, not so fast, Whitney. This girl is annoying as hell, but I'm
Yeah.
happy for the actress that she really made a lot of her moment. Okay.
Yes, good for yeah. She
So,
did.
she tells Whitney, she says, Whitney, I'm sick and tired of you showing up every time Chad and I are on a date. Girl, this is 2 times. This is 2 times. Really, first of all, the first time,
Was
maybe
not
you
a
could
date.
maybe you could say Whitney showed up and y'all were on a date. Maybe because but again, it's a public park. It was a public place, it's a public park.
Yeah.
This is a dance for at the youth center. You think this is where everybody's going tonight? Not just I'm not here just to see you and Chad. I'm definitely not here to see you.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, she tells her, I'm sick and tired of you showing up every time Chad and I are on a date. She says, you and Chad are broken up and he didn't want to be in a relationship with you anymore. So, why don't you just leave him alone and let him get on with his life?
Yeah.
She says, Chad and I are dating now and he's with me. So, get over it. I think that might be news to Chad, Kelly. I don't think Chad is dating you. She's as
Chad,
delusional as Simone.
yeah, for real, because Chad at this point is dating so many women. Like that he doesn't
Play it,
even
play it.
know he's dating. No, he
Play is
only
gonna
wants
play.
one. Yeah.
Play is gonna play. Yeah. So she goes on because Whitney's like, "Are you done?" And Kelly's like, "Actually, no." I said, "Baby, that was cunt. I'm not gonna lie. That was she ate that little one." When
Yeah.
when Whitney says, "Are you done?" and Kelly says, "Actually, no." And she goes on and she says, "You know what? All through high school, you were such a goody. You all you thought about was tennis, tennis, tennis. And you never clearly learned how to talk or act around boys."
Yeah.
And she says, "It's just pathetic the way you keep chasing after Chad." And then she finishes with, "Chad and I are together now. Leave him alone." And she walks away. So then later, Whitney sees Chad kissing Kelly. Yikes. Again, it's more Kelly kissing Chad, right? But
And
still.
at some point they didn't show this, but in the DVD feature, Simone's like, she's just kissing him to make him feel okay.
Where is Simone? Like,
Where
that's
is Simone?
crazy. But you know what? I guess she was like too wrapped up in the whole like charity punching.
She had to do that and call
Okay.
Eve. She had those two things to do. So
Oh. So, Whitney sees Kelly and Chad kissing, and she's then talks about like, "I've always been a good girl, but was it worth it? Was it worth it all this time?"
she should
And
have
then
put her thing down, flipped it, and reversed it instead.
is it worth
Because
it?
it wasn't worth it.
Yeah. Jessica comes into Whitney and is like, "Are you talking to yourself?" And she really said that to her, which is great. I loved it. And so they strike up a little conversation and basically talk about the predicament that Whitney is in and how she made this promise for Simone or whatever. And Jessica is like, "I can really relate." And he like the camera pans to her view of Kay and Reese dancing together. And she's like, "Yeah, it's hard. You don't want to take your sister's boyfriend." She's like, even if he never she said something about like he doesn't even know who I am or doesn't even know I exist, but that's not the situation you're in, Whitney. So we're getting a little they're giving us more and more of the
Yes.
Jessica and Reese crush situation. So they have that little conversation, and Whitney, I didn't realize that Jessica understood that Simone was completely delusional, but she does. she says something about like, yeah, but you and Chad were together. Like me and Reese were never together, but you and Chad were together, and like Simone is just delusional. She doesn't say that, but
But
that's
yeah.
basically that's the gist of it. And yeah, so they have that nice little conversation, and Jessica tells her, you know, Chad loves you, and I know you love him. And Whitney says, yeah, that may be true, but I have no choice but to give up the one thing that I really want so my sister will be okay. And she starts like getting teary eyed. I felt bad for her. And then Jessica like goes away and Whitney just starts to crumble under the pressure, okay? Um, of being the perfect good girl. And she's
Yeah.
talking about how she always does everything right and she does everything that everyone wants her to do. And she says, but I can't have any flaws. That wouldn't be acceptable. And she just starts getting overwhelmed and she like walks out. It's all very, you remember, you know, Louisa in Encanto?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very like, I'm the strong one. You
Yes.
know,
Well, and she is right. I do believe that TC and Eve have placed this pressure onto her to be perfect, to be amazing. To I mean, even in the phone call that when Simone asks if they can stay a little later, Eve basically is like, "Hey, just be careful. I know y'all don't do anything wrong. Y'all are perfect. Y'all are great." But I mean, it's again, it just sets up this idea that Eve and TC
yeah.
expect this more of Whitney than they do of Simone.
Yeah, she's got that pressure like a grip, 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 and it won't let go. Whoa.
Whoa.
So yeah, I was singing it after she said it. But yeah, Whitney's I mean, she's the oldest daughter, right? And that's a very rough position to be in some families. So uh she tries to pull Whitney away. Who wrote this? I did.
Who
Okay,
wrote it?
it is at this point that Whitney is like sitting at a table and her drink's like beside her,
Yeah.
and Ivy's fucking drug dealer walks in and spikes Whitney's drink. He pours some white powder into her drink. She drinks it. And then
Yeah.
she starts to like loosen up, right? And
Yes.
then she just starts like, she's like, oh, I really want to dance. And she just starts dancing with all these different guys.
Yeah.
She's
So
up on a table at one point.
and they did it as gradually as they could, because at one point some guy asked her to dance and she was like, "No, I'm okay." But then it was after that drink that she goes openly to try and find these guys to dance with. She dances with one guy, then she starts to dance with another, then she tells both of them like, "Why don't we all just dance together?" Tabitha sees this, and at this point she's been talking a little bit about like what's going on just in general, but she also is talking about how much she misses her powers, that she's like, something's weird here, like I don't understand, and she's like, I can't tap into anything. It is at that point that Tabitha does get this vision, and she sees Ivy calling this guy, the drug dealer, and so now Tabitha knows that Ivy hired this guy to put drugs in Whitney's cup, and so
Yeah.
I'm always just again fascinated about the magic, but also like Tabitha says she doesn't have powers, but then she gets like she can do certain
Yeah.
things,
I think
so
that's why I didn't remember her not having powers. Is because
yeah,
every
because
episode
she
I'm
can
watching,
still
she's
do
doing
stuff.
some witchy shit.
Yeah, she can see things, she can make mirrors, she can see in her martini, like she can do all this stuff.
Yeah.
But you know, again, if I was writing for the show, it makes sense that Tabitha might be getting her powers back. Charity's on ice.
Right.
She's probably slowly dying in that ice, and or
Yeah.
she first of all she should be dead, but
Mm.
like it's maybe she is slowly getting it. But she does know that Ivy did something, so so we get an understanding that Tabitha is aware of what's happening.
Yeah.
And yeah, Whitney is under the influence of drugs at this point.
Yeah. So I will say I was drugged one time at a bar here in the city, and I didn't realize what had happened to me until a couple of days later. I was like, I think I got drugged because it didn't make sense. But it does. I will say that night what happened, the like loss of my understanding and consciousness, and like thank God Laura was with me.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have made it home. And like the sickness that came with it,
Mhm.
I it came on fast. It came on
Wow.
very
Oh, okay.
fast. Yeah, so I do think the timing on this might be pretty accurate.
Oh,
She
I think I just want to clarify what I meant was that I was just trying to show the passage of like Whitney being Whitney,
Mhm.
by denying that guy and then showing like they tried to build up to like this is gonna happen.
Yeah.
That's what I yeah. I
Yeah.
can totally believe that it happened fast.
Yeah. So
Um,
and that man put a bunch of, he put a lot of drugs
oh
in her
yeah,
cup.
yeah, yeah.
He put a lot of drugs in her cup.
And she swigged it at some point. She took a sip a couple times and then she finished it off when she yeah.
Yeah, and so she's dancing. She's up on a table at one point. The music stops because Chad's like going on a break. But even though he's earlier said he could schedule the thing for 30 minutes at a time, so go
Yeah.
on your schedule and then go on your break. But whatever. Um, she goes over. She starts a beat, starts some music, and then she sings like a sexy pop song from the two.
Yeah.
Just think of any sexy pop song from 2002.
Yeah.
Very, I'm a genie in a bottle, baby.
Mhm.
It was very that. And she does a little performance. Honestly, I didn't think it was that crazy. And she sounded good. I could see if
No.
she was like sounding crazy, she was like
Yes.
slurring her words. But
But
this
because it's
scares Simone.
Whitney, yeah, because it's Whitney, it is so out of character for the rest of the citizens of Harmony that they're like, what is going on with her?
Yeah.
Tabitha makes some jabs about her being very much like her mother at this point. Like she, that she's under the influence, her being a singer. She's like, whoo, if Eve were to see this, like this is, she's so much like her mother right now.
Yeah. And we'll
Um,
talk more about this on our post show. I'm gonna post that. There'll be a post show for this episode.
yeah. And and this is what I was getting at when I was talking about what I remember and what I don't. Just like I remember, I can hear Eve singing "My Baby's Gone." Like I can play it in my head really fast. This is a clip that they're gonna show us to remind us that Whitney has this ability to sing like her mother,
Mm-hmm.
and it terrifies Eve eventually. And this is
Hmm.
gonna be this thing where they're like, "Where did she get this voice from?" For a
Yeah.
long storyline.
Yeah. So Simone gets scared. She tries to pull Whitney away, and Whitney's like, "You're harshing my buzz, dude," kind of thing. She's like, "No, you're just trying to ruin my fun. I'm just trying to have some fun for once." And that's when Simone calls her parents, and they are going to rush over, and that's where we ended this week.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
I don't know. I saw Challengers and I was just thinking about Whitney and I
Was
was
it
like, oh,
good?
I really enjoyed it. Yeah, Zendaya, she's so damn good in anything she's in.
Listen, I love Zendaya. I think that she's
Yes.
one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, I do really love her. And
Yeah.
anytime I see her in like an interview, she seems really nice, really down to earth.
It's
So I really
yeah.
like her.
I said
Yeah.
Zendaya. I'm
Hmm.
this happens to me a lot. I'm rewatching Orange is the New Black and there's a character named Daya there and I have a friend
Mm.
named Daya and it's very confusing to me.
Oh my gosh, listen. When I was teaching, there was a year where, well, not just a year because I had these kids multiple years, but I had a class that had a Naya, multiple Nayas. So it was like Naya, Anaya, Lanaya, Nia spelled like Naya, Maya, and like Maya and Mia. I had like all these girls who
Dang.
had basically the same name. I had a Sanaya as well.
Oh,
Like all in the same class. There was so many girls with the last like Naya, and I just be like, oh my god, which one is
Sanjaya
which?
was on American Idol. I'm
Yeah.
sure it was.
Which one is which? All right. So that's it
But
for the
yeah,
episode. Check out the post show. If you are a patron. Check out the post show if you're a patron. And if you're not a patron, become one. It's the community is growing and we're having a lot of fun.
yes.
So with that, Eric, where can everybody find you?
I'm Mr. Eric Vera on everything.
All right. And I have all my things in the link tree in the description. So just check that out. And that's it. That's all she wrote. So with that, you are my passion for life.